be brave. If you've got it in you, if you can find it in yourself, and I have not necessarily done this through the years, but, be brave. As we keep saying throughout this, what's the worst that could happen? Nothing really very bad. So just do it. And I remember having a phone call actually with a recruitment consultant while I was still at Arcadia, who I said, I would be interested in warehousing if that was an opportunity. And they said that I wouldn't ever get a role in warehousing because I had no experience of working in a unionised environment. So I hope they're listening.
How very random.
Noses. Yeah, it was a struggle, but I believed it because, that's what I was told. Nothing to fear. That's the biggest thing.
You haven't got the job now, so what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just not going to have the job tomorrow.
Exactly.
So, why not try?
And, if someone was to have a poor interview experience, then shame on the person interviewing, because that should never be the case. It should always be positive, regardless.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're the same. I've never sat down to interview someone and wished anything but the best for them, wanting it to be a success, prompting questions. You're not there to try and, contrary to what don't listen to that voice, is telling you. Everyone in that room wants it to be a positive experience.
Welcome to Talent Unboxed. In this episode, I'm joined by Holly, one of the senior managers at John Lewis Partnership Logistics Network. Now, Holly talks to us about how she's developed her career in the logistics space, which is typically, a male-dominated industry, and all the challenges she's faced along the way, as well as some of the great stuff she's doing in her role. So join me for a chat with Holly coming on now. Thank you, Holly, for joining Talent Unboxed.
You're welcome.
As you may have seen, we've created the podcast to help people get the best out of the talent market, and whether that be employers wanting helpful tips and advice that businesses and organisations are using that are supporting their talent search, or candidates. So do you want to introduce yourself for people?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Holly Phillip. I currently work for John Lewis, managing the National Distribution Centre in Northampton. Excuse me. But the role also oversees the relationship with iForce, who manage a couple of sheds up the road at Junction 16. So all of our two-person product, well, not all of it, but the majority of it.
So explain what you mean by two-person.
So I think what John Lewis is probably more famous for is if you ordered a washing machine or something, and then turning up at your door will be a lovely green van or black and white, with the John Lewis branding on the side, and then two people will get out and take that off the back and bring it into your house, and hopefully you might have bought a service with that, so they might put the telly on the wall for you or plumb in your washing machine. So that's what we would call a two-person delivery, and that really big bulky stock is what is in the Northampton sites in the main.
And that's what you look after running that site.
Yeah.
And the relationship between the third-party logistics, which is iForce in this case.
Yes.
And the John Lewis partnership, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Excellent. So you haven't always been in logistics, have you? What I'm really interested in finding out is more about being a woman in logistics, because it's predominantly, over the years, is evolving in a much stronger place to be a bit more level now. Probably still not level, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
But logistics was always a male-dominated space, is fair to say. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
And your background's been quite interesting, given that you started off more in a merchandising role. How did that kind of come about? So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. When I graduated university a couple of years ago,
what did you do at uni?
I did American studies at university. So this was back in the day where you just sort of, everyone seemed to just go, you'd do your A-levels and you'd go to university, and then, you just went with the flow because you didn't need to specialise. You just needed to show that you could get a degree, really. Left there and then got a job at Tesco head office because it was only, 20 minutes up the road from where I live with my parents. And that was in an entry-level merchandising role. So that would be around raising contracts for whatever the buyers were buying. This was in Tesco clothing. And then putting the contracts on the system and managing that stock, the bookings into the warehouse and keeping the stock flowing that way. So I did that. And then there was another department there, which was about managing the allocation of that stock out of the warehouse into the branches, and a little bit around opening new stores, because this was the early 2000s when, it was boom time. You'd go into every results presentation and we were always up on the year. And so when I first started my career, that's what I was used to seeing. So, obviously things changed a bit in 2008. So then after that, I actually followed a female manager that I'd had at Tesco. She moved to Burton for Arcadia in London. And then she messaged me one day saying, there's a role in my team. Was I interested? Went down to London, interviewed for that, was successful. And that was when I became the distribution manager, and so was managing, and then that grew into the distribution and logistics manager. And that was essentially managing that relationship with the warehouse. So it was Spectrum for Arcadia at the time, Spectrum running the warehouses. So that conduit between what the merchandisers wanted to bring in, because there's always a reason for, this is the next big thing, we've got to get it into the warehouse. But as we all know, warehouses don't have elastic walls, and just trying to manage that flow. And through doing that role, spent a lot of time going to visit the warehouses. And it's just, if you haven't, anyone that hasn't had the opportunity to visit a warehouse or work in the warehouse, I would say in the main, they generally have a really lovely community feel. It's a completely different vibe. No matter who I've worked for, that's been the case. Real sort of genuine people that work in them, really care about what they do. And so I'd always been interested in that side of it. And I remember having a phone call actually with a recruitment consultant while I was still at Arcadia, who I said, I would be interested in warehousing if that was an opportunity. And they said that I wouldn't ever get a role in warehousing because I had no experience of working in a unionised environment. So I hope they're listening.
How very random.
Up their noses. Yeah, it was but I believed it because, that's what I was told.
That is so random.
Yeah.
That you would never get a job in a warehouse because of being in a unionised environment.
Yeah.
So is that, what did they expand on that?
And I just believed it because I had no idea. I had no experience of it anyway. And I don't know what that was about.
But when I think about all the warehouses that we supply staff to or have done over the years, I don't think I've ever come across one that was unionised.
That's a strange thing. So what would this probably would have been around 2007, 2000 and no, sorry, maybe about 2010.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very odd.
Really odd. Yeah, knowing what I know now, really odd.
Yeah, really odd. So obviously, continuing from Burton then, and then you went into John Lewis, because overall you're 25 years now in the. Sorry.
Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, 25 years journey.
Yeah.
That started at Tesco's. And did logistics back then ever register as something that you thought about? I know you've just given that example, but
no, not until. I mean, God, not at all. Not until I would say late at Tesco when I started to understand that relationship a bit better. Because in that merchandising environment, it's all the sort of, you're looking at nice, in the case of Tesco, nice clothes and, it's exciting. You're part of the choosing and how many are we going to buy and all of that. And then actually, it's not until really I went to Burton that I fully understood none of that is possible without an effective warehousing distribution centre situation. And all of that went into that behind the scenes and all of that hard work and dedication. And as I said, generally passionate people that is actually the real backbone of it. And that was just really interesting.
But I think when people think about logistics, and we get this now, when we work with various different forums, or we've partnered with Bedford College and we're on the logistics advisory panel for their apprenticeships, and it's still not considered a Gucci role, logistics. And I think there's a huge misconception around the opportunity that logistics presents to people if they are prepared to kind of give it a chance.
I think that's a really interesting point, actually, you just saying that, because I've got certainly within the teams that I've worked with while I've been at John Lewis, so purely based in the warehouses, jobs ranging from, picking stock right the way through to visual coordinators who go out and film training videos. You've got the training team, the resourcing team, the IT team, the engineering team. It's almost like when you see those adverts for the Royal Air Force of all the different jobs you can do, the catering team. They all exist within a warehouse environment, but you wouldn't think of it that way. And you're absolutely right. There is a lot more to it than just the basic bring it in, send it out.
Yeah, and there's obviously lots of different job roles and duties within logistics, but equally the career paths that it can create for people.
Yeah.
I deal with quite a few senior managers or site managers or GMs that have started off their career as a picker. Some of them even as a temp. And have worked their way up through the ranks by, perseverance and application and trying and all of this stuff. But talk me through, what was your main pivot from merchandising? So you mentioned it was, you started to learn a bit more about it and you showed some interest, and you had that bad experience with a badly advised recruiter. But what made you really make that shift into it?
So, I mean, I knew I was at this point interested in, I'd shown an interest because I was doing that distribution and logistics role for Burton and BHS Menswear, that liaison piece. And then I left to have my first child, went and thought, I don't really want to go back to travelling to London. And as an aside, we had actually the people that I worked with, we always used to say working for John Lewis was like the Holy Grail, because everyone knew that working for the partnership, all the additional benefits and that sort of thing, we all would like to have had a job there, and their head office was around the corner from Burton. But anyway, that aside, went on maternity leave. No, I didn't want to go back. I live in Milton Keynes, so we had at that point, sort of three warehouses. No, 4, sorry. So applied online, was just looking to take anything just to get a job, because by this time I'd been sort of unemployed, if you will, for a couple of months as well. And I was really lucky. I applied for a profit protection role, and this was when, sorry, I'm jumping around, it won't be very clear, but Magna Park 3 was nearly built but wasn't open or anything like that. I applied for this profit protection role working for the partnership, but they put me forward. They, with my experience, thought that I would be suitable for a section manager role within MP3, which I went for the interview for that. And again, I was really lucky. The people that interviewed me thought, actually, you'd be really good for this department manager role, which was the inventory manager, and went for that and were successful. So I think that says a lot about the partnership in itself, that they were open to, I'd gone for these other jobs, but they were looking, and they were looking at who they had in front of them, going, actually, like talent spotting. Again, that sounds really up my own.
No, but that was the job of a good recruiter. That was what you've just explained.
Yes, that's it. That they were going, well, actually, you would suit this role, and I thought that was amazing. I felt very lucky. And that's how I ended up in MP3 in the inventory management, which I'd never done before. And I also really appreciate them taking a chance on that. I mean, they were an interesting few months, but learned a lot.
But 10 years on.
Yes.
You joined John Lewis in 2016. You've had 5 different roles in the partnership now. Although there was a couple that were secondments, right?
Yeah.
From the outside, that's created lots of opportunity for you. And is that what the partnership structure brings? Because I've never worked for a partnership, and lots of people listening probably won't have worked for a partnership. But is that the benefit of those kind of partnership companies? Is that you get those different opportunities as well as going and working hard and doing all this stuff?
Yeah, do you know what? I've not thought about it like that, but it probably is from a cultural perspective, in that we really do invest and encourage.
You're all part owners, right? So it's kind of,
so a lot of our,
in everyone's interest is to make sure it's done and done well.
Yeah, probably that, and just this wanting your. I'm trying to think. I hadn't really thought about it. It's a great question, because you are right. I'm thinking about when I'd worked at Arcadia, and you would get a lot of new people in, a less upwardly mobile movement, and more just new people in, and people would leave more. But you don't see that. I mean, one interesting stat at Northampton, at the Bracknell site where I work, 50% of our partners have been there over 20 years. So people stay. They want to stay, and therefore, I guess if you want to get on, they're looking for the opportunities within the partnership.
Do they still have the secondment of 6 months? Oh, not the secondment. The where you get 6 months off paid after 25 years service.
Yeah.
So do you think that keeps people there?
I think there's a window when it keeps people there. I think once you start nearing the 20-year mark, you start thinking, I don't want to walk away from this. But there's still a reason people stay up to the 20 years, if you like. Because it is a lovely place to work. It is a lovely place to work.
Well, in our experience of working with John Lewis, and we've partnered with you for a number of years now as a business, that we've always found the partnership to be really collaborative and wanting to make decisions for the better and for the good. Although, there's obviously a commercial element to it as well. One of the things I think, compared to other businesses in a similar space, we've never struggled to recruit people when we know, when they know that it's John Lewis. So I think that in itself speaks volumes around, the treatment of people and all of that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And you obviously now, over your 25 years in that space in total, have you seen a dramatic shift between the amount of women in logistics now to what it used to be when you first started, or is it?
Yeah, just in my sphere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, hadn't really considered it until sort of we were chatting about it. Yeah, I mean, now, if you just look at the situation now, so of the 4 NDCs that we've got currently, two of the 4 operations managers are women. 2 of the 2 head of roles are women. We've got within our department manager, and then more operations manager level women looking after the support functions. We've got female shift managers, and that has definitely shifted just within the 10 years that I've been there. So, yeah.
And what do you think that's done in terms of the message to the younger generation coming through and exploring? Because you can get into, let's be honest, you can get into logistics without any qualifications, right?
Yeah.
And then if you find a good business that's prepared to invest in you, and you're prepared to do the hours and commit, and maybe take part in some external learning or whatever it is that businesses are doing in that space, like we've touched on, the opportunity is massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you think there could be more to be done to promote that?
Definitely. I am proud to say that within the John Lewis distribution, we have a women in distribution group that is, we started a few years ago, but is really, really gaining momentum now, where we've got more female leaders in, and therefore more champions. And particularly in the Milton Keynes site, Louise, who runs MP3, has done loads of work there around bringing women together, the different cultures together, to talk through experiences, to highlight opportunities and career paths. So we're on a journey with that, but that has really gained momentum. My demographics up here are a little bit different, and because we haven't had the opportunity to recruit recently, we'll have to see. I have recently recruited though a female section manager, because that person, let me be really clear, was the best person for the job as well. It's not, but what we are really keen to do is exactly as you're saying, reach the population that aren't necessarily computer based and so can't dial into calls and things like that, to just make sure that they're supported and know that there are these opportunities available, and any support that they want, you know, or just building a community sometimes is the goal. And another sort of aspect to that is Louise and I have been going to quite a few women in logistics events, you know, the community interest company. They run lots of events, so they're great. And so we're going to try and take more people along with us to some of those, because they're great for networking, which just the word makes me like, but is really useful.
But I think that's a really fair point, because there is I go to quite a few networking things, and there are limited number of females in the room typically, which is surprising given the amount of females now in the senior roles within logistics. It'd be nice to see more of them venturing into those.
They're really good, I have to say.
Yeah, no, it's good. Okay, so what I think is really positive around the women in logistics space is, and I think actually when I think about some recent businesses that we've been recruiting for, is you can naturally, those businesses that have a balance of female and male leaders tend to get more out of productivity, and you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think it's more of there's definitely a benefit that lots of businesses are seeing, and I think the ones that are adopting that attitude are really kind of the ones that you can clearly see that are flourishing in it.
Yes.
Is there any advice for you, or that you would give smaller businesses about how they can adopt a more structured approach to those kind of, how they approach talent, and including more females, or giving the people opportunities like you've had, where someone's looked at your CV and gone, well, actually, you might meet this one, although you're here for this job.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think it's necessary. Well, I would like to think it's less advice for the businesses and more advice for the candidates who may read the classic, and I don't want to be sexist, but generally, you know, they say a woman will read a job description and think of all the things about it that she doesn't fulfill, whereas a chap might go, you know, I can do 80% of that. I'm going to give that a go. And we need to be more like that. So it would be less for the businesses, because I think at Northampton, I've definitely seen it. I've seen it across the whole distribution network, where it's not that we are not recruiting females into those roles, is that they're not necessarily applying. And I think people are you look at it and you think, well, you know, I can't use Excel, therefore I won't apply, even though I can do everything else.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because and again, I'm not stereotyping here, but the men was always a good pickers, the women were always good packers, right?
Yeah,
I can't pack. I've got sausage fingers. I can't pack. I'm a better picker. There is some of that dexterity stuff when it comes to the low entry roles that is obviously more suited to whatever sex that might look like, or gender or whatever. But I think when it comes to some of the other roles within the logistics space, I think you're right. The people still, like we touched on this before, they're not seeing the wider picture. They just think dirty warehouse, or you know, oh, it's just a warehouse job, but they're not looking at actually where it can branch off into.
Oh my God, and all the skills that you would need, you know, analysing data to improve performance, or if that's your bag, or, you know, the people management piece is what it's all about. All of those soft skills, behavioural skills, or, you know, if you are really good at training and that's your, God, I mean, yeah, anything, you could do anything within that sphere. There would be something to suit everyone.
So if you could sit down with Holly now from 20 years ago and have a coffee chat with her and say, you know, what would you be telling yourself?
Oh my God, it's just that don't listen to, sort of know your own worth and don't listen to that inner imposter, the one that points out all the things you can't do, the one that says, oh yeah, but loads of people will be going for that job. Or because when I've been at these events for women in logistics or whatever they are, you hear these women's stories and they've always sort of jumped around and gained experience in lots of places. I mean, I've only got three different companies on my CV, whereas, you know, potentially I've missed a trick there. I could have got more experience and sped up my career path by just being a bit more brave and applying for the jobs and not being afraid of rejection. No, all of that sort of thing. You know, don't sweat the small stuff. That goes for any young person. What's the worst that can happen? You don't get an interview. What's the worst that can happen? You don't get the job. But that's it. That's not that bad, is it?
But don't you find that the younger generation coming through now are just, they don't necessarily see the benefit in just trying?
Yeah, that seems to be the vibe, but that's a whole different conversation, isn't it? Well, I don't know. Is it? There is also that element. I mean, you tell me. That I think some stuff they have got right, where they seem to have their what they want out of their work-life balance pretty firmly as a non-negotiable, and you think, well, maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it isn't, but I also think there comes with some balance and management of expectation.
Yeah,
and I think, you know, there's often a rub, isn't there? The more senior you become, the more pressured the role, the more rewarding the role, typically in terms of pay and all of those kind of things. But you're right, there's got to be a bit of a rub. It's the more responsibility you get, that might mean that you kind of, you might be on call, or you might be doing this, or you might be doing that. I'm not saying that's the case for every space, but if you're career minded, then that might have to be the realism around it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, you know, what is definitely a pattern being created for us when we're talking to colleges and schools is that there's a reluctance to be pushing themselves forward in these circumstances in the main. I'm not saying everybody. So they're not prepared to kind of take a risk and put themselves forward for a job because of the fear of rejection, or, oh no, well, I've read it and it, you know, I don't do all of it. And I think it's good that there's people out there and organisations that are encouraging people to do that. I think more businesses definitely need to take the mindset of trying that kind of not skills, but more experience over qualification mentality. And you know what? There's been a bit of a pattern with podcast guests as well, is where they're actively encouraging people to be curious and to ask questions and to push themselves out of the comfort zone. And I don't think that that's necessarily understood by the job seeker as much as, you know, in terms of they don't necessarily understand that businesses are actively encouraging it. So therefore, you have nothing to fear.
Yeah. Oh my God, nothing to fear. That's the biggest thing.
You haven't got the job now, so what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just not going to have the job tomorrow.
Exactly.
So, you know, why not try?
And, you know, if someone was to have a poor interview experience, then shame on the person interviewing, because that should never be the case. It should always be positive, regardless.
Yeah.
You know? I'm sure you're the same. I've never sat down to interview someone and wished anything but the best for them, you know, wanting it to be a success, prompting questions. You're not there to try and, contrary to what don't listen to that voice is telling you. Everyone in that room wants it to be a positive experience.
Do you enjoy interviewing?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I do. It's not, you have to make sure that you're giving yourself the right amount of time and to really, you don't want them back to back because you want to really listen to what that candidate's got to say. And oftentimes when I've interviewed, I've been left thinking, I wish I had a lot of jobs, or I wish there were more opportunities that you could maybe slot people into, because you do see a lot of talent. You think maybe not this role. I wish we had, there's something, you've got something. And I would always, during the feedback process, share that. Don't keep going, keep this momentum going, because something will come your way. Maybe not this opportunity, but don't lose that momentum. You've definitely got something to give here.
So for a woman listening
yes,
to this, who might be 5-10 years into a logistics career and wondering what they can do to really push into senior roles, what would you say to her? Anything?
I would say, first of all, again, just to repeat myself, do not be put off by what is in any job description. But I would also say, and this goes against my very core, but I forced myself to do it, and now it isn't as big a deal, is go to these events and do a bit of networking. But go with someone you know. I'm not asking people to go out, be the lone person in the room. But you do meet loads of interesting people, both men and women, but that's where you find out about businesses that you've never heard of, and also jobs that you might not have thought of that fall within the logistics umbrella. Get yourself a mentor within the company that you're in, or, I don't work for women in logistics, by the way, but they offer a mentoring scheme. There are always people that will support you and use them, as one of our female head of said, get yourself a tribe, get yourself a group of people around you who are your cheerleaders. I'm really lucky. You're one. I've got people around me who, those days when your imposter syndrome is winning, remind you, no, you are capable. And that's just really important, because we all have days, men or women, where you feel a bit rubbish.
I think, it's well said in many different sectors, not just the logistics, isn't it? If you surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
And not only that, seek that mentorship.
Yes.
Because I think years ago, it's a bit like going to a psychiatrist, right? It was really frowned upon.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, you're going to see a shrink, you must be nuts.
Yeah.
I think don't be afraid to ask for help, because there are always going to be people out there, and you see it on LinkedIn all the time.
Yes.
Ask for some advice. I need this, I need that. And I think that's one of the strong things about the UK, is that we always pull together in some capacity. There's a tragedy, or there's a disaster, or there's a charity, or there's sponsorship. The people rally around each other all the time to pick them up. And I think that was something I wish, when I look back on my time, if I would have probably got some mentorship much younger. And networking, I didn't really take that seriously in my early 20s. Whereas if in hindsight, if I'd have done more of it back then, especially when I started in recruitment, there might have been a chance that my career would have progressed quicker, sooner, or whatever. So I think it's a really good advice to surround yourself with good people. Yeah.
Yes, that is exactly it in a tagline. Surround yourself with good people. I was always nervous of networking because I didn't really know what it meant. I thought, it felt really formal, sounded really formal, but all it is just chatting, being in a group of people and chatting, which we're all good at. I especially.
Right.
Love a chat.
Love a chat.
Not so good at networking, but love a chat. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what's the future hold for Holly. Where's?
I don't know, Chris.
No.
I don't know. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So I've only been in an operation, like running a warehouse role for. Let's say a year and a quarter. So I'm really enjoying that and learning more about that and looking at opportunities, because that's the exciting bit, isn't it? Finding things where you think, I'm going to have a go at that. Trialling stuff. So, and obviously love working for John Lewis, and we've just discussed about there being lots of opportunities there. So who knows? But at the minute, for the foreseeable, it's about really embedding that, learning more about how a 3PL works, and that side of stuff. So lots of interesting stuff for me going on at the minute. So just really embracing that.
And, do you struggle with the whole balancing work and family? Has that ever come up where...
No, I have to say another good thing about John Lewis, that's never been an issue there. I mean, we all do, don't we? We all have days where you think, I wish I was there, but I have to say I very much firmly live by the rule. I never want to be lying on my deathbed and wishing that I had gone to something at the school or something. So I do put that first. So I will always put that first. Because no one laid at their deathbed and said, I wish I spent more time at work.
Well, no, this is true. But I think, again, when you talk about how businesses can adopt a better attitude to retain people.
Yes.
Giving people the space to go to school assemblies, sports days, take the kids to the appointments or whatever.
Yeah.
And as long as they can mix it in and around their time at work and the duties and the things they have to achieve, then it's a win for everybody, right?
You're so right. Happy people, happy business. Well, that's our happier people, happy business, happier world. But it's so true. It's so true. I would never want anyone that was in my team to have missed out on anything like that, any life event or life. We all remember being in the choir or in the school production and looking out to the assembly hall, desperate to find your parents. And I was lucky that there was always someone there for me. And I would not want any child to miss out on that. That's priceless.
Yeah. Okay. So as we wrap up then, what's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given? And then if there is one, what's the worst?
Oh, what's the best piece of... I think I might have covered all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I kind of wondered.
It's that... I mean, there is another good one, and I hate to say it, but, and I have heard contradicting opinions, but never offer to take notes in a meeting, unless it's a meeting where there is, you meet regularly and everyone takes it in turns. Just do not set that precedent. But it is true. But other than that,
so
don't
just
be
the
brave.
note taker in a meeting. Yeah.
No, unless there is an equal distribution. Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
In which case, then you definitely should.
Yeah.
But that equal distribution, if it's everyone's having a go. But I have found over the years that that's not the case, and it does generally fall to a female. So don't do that. But be brave if you've got it in you, if you can find it in yourself. And I have not necessarily done this through the years, but, be brave. As we keep saying throughout this, what's the worst that could happen? Nothing really very bad. So just do it. I think someone should use that as a tagline.
I think they might. Already. But no, listen, Holly, thank you so much for joining Talent Unboxed. I'm sure that listeners are going to find that really valuable. And we're excited to see where your next part of the journey takes you.
Thank you so much.
And all the best with the Women in Logistics. I think it's a great thing to be part of. So
yeah, definitely.
Good luck.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, Chris.
No, thank you.